The Central Weekly, a weekly podcast from the Central Podcast Network. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here. Mr. John Henninger.
Hey, Jared.
And that's me, Jared LaCrumb.
Right, yeah.
And we are continuing the ministry spotlight for the Central Weekly. And we're bringing in two very special guests. Top special guests. That's what I think.
Wow.
And they've been on the show previously, but they're here to talk about ministry spotlights here at Central.
Let that cat out of the bag, Jared.
Here they are. Linda Ryan and Bryan Springvloed.
Wow. That is
Wow. Woo. I like that they're almost like, I don't think they're excited as I am.
Oh, they're excited.
I need you to level up.
What we were thinking, there would be other guests with you saying, like, hey, you said so many good things. We thought that somebody else was coming.
Yeah,
but everybody knows.
No, it's just you guys. No, not just. Sorry, I didn't mean to say just. But here's the cool thing: if you were in church this weekend, there's some things that were talked about that might have blew your mind. Maybe I don't know. Blow your mind again might be.
I hope motivated some like-minded people.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to talk about that. And I think this is a cool room to do that in because Bryan has been an orchestrator in this. Did you say orchestrator?
Yeah, Bryan's been part of this from the get-go.
And Linda knows everything.
Likewise, Linda, whose office is connected, pretends she doesn't hear stuff.
Let me give you some stats here. The stats are Jared and John are in the room with Bryan and Linda. Now, Linda, your title is office manager. Am I right?
Correct.
And so you look over the admin people here at Central, which you've got Colin the Bora, and that's your assistant, John. Yeah. He is your assistant. Yep. And you have Bambi.
Yep.
Yes.
And
Bambi
how long has Bambi worked at Central?
I think it'll be 8 years this November.
Oh.
Yeah.
I believe so. Yeah. And every time somebody sits at the desk and she's gone, people call and go, well, where's Bambi?
Yeah. She's a staple here at Central.
Yes, she's great with people. Love it.
And then who else would be kind of on your side of the woods? Bryan with facilities. You've got, go ahead.
Yeah, Robert Forrestal. And then Ethan, Ted. We've got Aiden and Caden also too. Aiden and Caden.
And you didn't plan that.
Well, it just makes
bring
it
the
easier.
guys
it
in
makes
and
it
say,
easier to remember names.
I'm going to say your name out loud. That's the only, if it rhymes, you're golden, I hire you.
You say Aiden. Caden.
But it is funny because Aiden and Caden are like a long history of high schoolers, young adults that have worked at Central and done that part-time custodian job, and they've done a good job with it.
They've been amazing.
They have really been good. I appreciate both those guys, both hard workers and both super relational.
For sure.
And so here's the thing: because your neck of the woods guys are more staff related to talk about, I also wanted to just put a comma in that and talk about the campus team that Ethan was involved in, since that's kind of under your realm. It's kind of, I tell Ethan it's very confusing that we have a campus team that does off-campus work, but it's okay because you get a conversation has. So Bryan, they went to where did they go to do their work at? Was it
question.
Bethel?
They went to a camp in Dahlgren.
I knew it. See, Linda, I knew she'd know. Yeah. But that's the cool thing. And they had like over 20 people that were there to help.
They did. They had, I think Ethan said, 4 side-by-sides. They had tractors. They had weed eaters and chainsaws. And
that would be where John would be.
Whoa. And they took a lot of people, men and women included, little kids, a couple of little kids. Of course, those were Ethan's. They were there.
They ran the chainsaw.
They did.
Chainsaw crew.
That was
me.
Shout out.
But my son was one of those, which is Mitch was there. And if anybody knows, he's disabled. But somebody told me that he was driving the 4x4.
Oh, there you go.
And I went, no. Please, no.
Make sure that doesn't happen.
But he did good. So,
and so
it was great.
Linda, what's your favorite part of your job?
Well, I can't say too much because he's sitting in the room.
Bryan, go ahead and leave for get back with my comment.
Really, my favorite part of the job is getting to work with people that I work with. Just seeing them flourish. Yeah. A lot of these young people that have come in, I don't understand them. They're a lot younger than me, but just seeing them grow and flourish and have a good time working here and being here, it's It's rewarding. Very
And
much
really,
so.
I mean, kind of in our little corner of the building there. I mean, our, Brian's
Literally.
office, Linda's office, Colin's office, my office, just kind of in a corner there. And I get to, I mean, Linda does, and Brian will speak to this as well, but I mean, she does so much more than just office manage, right? I mean, everything from HR stuff to check stuff and I mean just all kinds of stuff. But really, I mean, in the dynamic of our staff, Linda is kind of evolved into this staff mom role.
She
I
really
mean,
is.
like almost on the daily, there's people in your office having conversations like that, and really sometimes bringing their kids into your office because you got a treasure chest and all kinds of fun stuff.
Yep,
And that's Linda's office.
That's my office. And, somebody asks, what's the highlight of my day sometimes? And I say, it's when the little ones come in and they play in my office and got games for them. I've got crayons, whatever they need. So it's just fun to have people in the office. I do have the chocolate.
Yeah, well, that's the key.
That's
key.
a big one.
Yeah, she's got the pool for adults and children.
Yes, kids. But I think, and I want to speak to this too, Bryan, I think with Linda, that you have Linda on the staff. I mean, like Jon said, it's not just a numbers thing. It's not just a spreadsheet with Linda. It's more relational. And I think that's the key to a lot of people that we have on this staff is that it's not just, they're not just here for their talent. They're here because of the chemistry and what they can bring to the team.
Oh, for sure. And I think Linda's a good example of it, but I think that is probably the biggest thing that we strive to do is just have people that fit. I think everyone is willing to do things, really whatever it takes. But on the same token, if they're not good at it, even though they're willing, I'm willing to run a chainsaw, but I might not be good at it. We don't want to find that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, the big thing too is it isn't just about numbers for us. And you can get lost in that, but, there's ministry that has to be done. And I think we're open enough to try to, make those numbers work in the best possible way, while at the same time making sure that we spend, what we're supposed to, where we're supposed to, how we're supposed to. And then, and I think as long as everybody understands that, there's no hard line one way or the other, that we're going to make it work for the ministry first. And then, of course, after that, you've got to make the numbers work too, or else we wouldn't be doing ministry.
Yep. Are you ready for my dentist analogy? I do a dentist analogy every episode.
Do you?
Yep. This is the first time.
A dentist?
I was at the dentist the other day, and I was thinking, okay, we have a lot of teeth in our head, right? Most of us do.
32, right? Isn't that the number?
Ish.
Something like that.
That sounds right. But imagine if we didn't have that many teeth and they were just like larger teeth and we had like 6 of them in our mouths. Imagine if you lost one and then you'd have this huge gap. And the dentist, I was telling her that, and she goes, oh, yeah, that's funny. And then she was humoring me for a little bit. But she said, it's crazy because when you have a tooth that falls out or you don't have there, the other teeth try to do the work of that. And she said, every tooth has a design and a purpose in your mouth to do something different. Every tooth. I mean, probably the one on the one side is very similar to the other molar on the other side. But that's an analogy for first our staff and the kingdom of God, that there's sometimes where we might lose a person and we needed that person because they were doing a really great job, but we'll compensate. But yet if we're not made for that and we don't have the talents and God's not given us that purpose, we're going to wear out that tooth a lot faster or wear out that person a lot faster. And we've seen that with people here, that there's a lot of times where we'll get the job done, but yet we got to care about the person too. And I think this staff does a really good job of caring for one another. It's funny that we're recording this on a Friday again, and we just got done with our first inaugural resident graduation of sorts. And I use that of sorts very broadly, very broadly.
I think it would rival the top 10 colleges in the world.
I think it was a waste of resources. We should have been working. But get back to your offices.
Basically, we had 2, Pacey and Kyle Bora, graduated from Liberty, and they're part of our residency program, and we did a little graduation with them in the worship center. But it was just fun staff thing, and speaks just to, again, the friendliness and relationshipness, that's a word, of this staff. So anything else? Bryan, what is your favorite part of your job?
Oh, Linda, of course.
Wow.
I mean, why wouldn't, and Jon and Jared,
Yeah,
I
these are
mean,
great
why wouldn't it
answers.
be? Podcasts,
Yep.
all that. Well, no, all joking aside, I mean, with the truth, rather. No, I think it's just being able to kind of use, the talents that you have and the skills that you've worked on for a while to be able to use it in a ministry, in a ministry concept, and just being a part of, a team of something bigger too. And, I do think, we do all have our own, area that we fit best in. And, I don't know, and just to be able to kind of have that fit, I like that.
Yeah. It's just a bunch of teeth. That's what we are. Just a
Where does the
mouthful
laughing
of-
gas fit in?
I don't know. That's definitely, yeah. Okay, so there's
Just real quick about Bryan.
Yeah.
I feel like working together, Bryan brings, because I lean toward the creative side, like that's just kind
Really?
of, well, but Bryan brings a really good balance to it all. His expertise he's an expert in areas that I am for sure not. And so back to your mouth teeth.
It works every time.
It really does. Every tooth has a purpose. Bryan is for sure an important part of our team here, bringing a much needed skill set to the
I'm a
table.
big tooth, I guess.
You're a big molar.
Molar.
I would call you a big
molar.
Because you got to gnaw and get the job done.
It's better than a wisdom
Yeah.
tooth, and sooner or later you got to get them out.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
your insider information.
Oh, boy.
Wow.
Yes.
Hey, do you hear that? You hear that? That was the elephant in the room. Let's talk about
goodness.
it.
All right.
This sermon was basically not. It was great because we talked about what's next for Central.
Right.
And so, Jon, talk us from the beginning. You talked a little bit about what the elders have gone through, what you've been
Right.
praying into this, because you've been feeling and you wanted to capitalize on this growth that we currently have.
Right.
And it is really crazy. I've been here since 2010 and on staff on 2013. And 2010, we kind of hit that peak, I would say. 1,600? We'd flirt with 18 sometimes, but we're consistently 2,000 people. And of course, we can also always talk about WSIL online. But
Yeah, for sure. And like I said in the sermon, we have seen and this is 100% praise God, give God the credit and glory kind of a statement. But we've seen more on-site growth in the last 18 months than we did in the 12 previous years combined. We grew incrementally a little bit from year to year, but it's for sure a season of building up here at Central. And how do we make the most of that, not just for Central, but for the entire kingdom?
I think one number that is, I don't know what your most important number, but I love that you said in the last 29 months, there's been nearly 300 baptisms.
Yeah.
That's insane. And the reason we bring those up, because again, a number is...
Every number has a name, every name has a life, and every life needs...
Jesus?
Yes, goodness gracious.
Sorry. But you, so basically you're looking at two things that we want to do as a church family, two expansions that we want to start off and have ready to go by Easter 2024.
So between now and Easter 2024, the two ways that this ministry will enlarge, and this is not because I say so, but this is because this is the way that the Lord has led us. And so between now, with the confirmation of the elders, between now and Easter of 24, we will expand in two ways. We'll expand our facility, and that comes by way of seats, parking spots, and space. And then we will expand our footprint, which means entering into a multi-site ministry model.
And before we get into that logistics, speak again. You mentioned in your sermon, but speak again about that the elder meeting, that final one that you were like, okay, we're going to do this or not. And you were saying that Hayden planned, that 24-hour prayer walk that maybe some people listening were a part of.
Yeah, that you really just told it all right
There you
there.
go.
There it is.
Tell them all the story.
Tell us about that.
But I thought, because when you told us in the pastors' meeting about that, you could feel the energy in that room. And I was like, this is the very room that the elders were sitting in when this decision was made. And again, like you said, you don't want to over-spiritualize. I don't think my wife would like us to say that. We should spiritualize everything.
Sure.
But... the fact is, too, I mentioned to you, we had a 23 fast that started out this year.
Yeah.
And that was all about, from the very get-go, Greater Days was our very first sermon. And it's just neat that we're sitting here today's the 19th, and we're unveiling, hopefully, what God has poured on the leaders' hearts here at Central.
Right.
So,
and I have really, matter of fact, in my original sermon for this weekend, and just in my original communication for the way this whole thing, it started out by saying, Lord willing, between now and Easter, this is going to happen. But I've had to back up on that because really, through every avenue that we have, the Lord has showed that He is willing. So now is the execution part.
That's a good point. Because that's something you say a lot, Lord willing, and it's because you don't want to do things, go out on your own, and God's not backing you.
Right.
But I think that is important because I think that's obvious now that the Lord is willing,
Right.
And moving us to it. And I before we talk logistics, I love that what you said about the opportunity and the obligation. Speaking to that a little bit.
Well, I mean, we're just in this season that we have an opportunity, and really when an opportunity of any kind is presented to you, you have a choice whether you're going to take it or not. And really in this particular case, we have a choice. By far the easier thing, the cheaper thing, the more comfortable thing would be just to stay here, address the worship center stuff, let people keep driving to us, whatever it is. But I believe that we have more than an opportunity, but we have an obligation to do what God's called us to do. And in both of these areas of expansion.
Yeah. What are you guys, Linda and Bryan, what are you most excited about with this?
I think it's a horrible idea.
Oh man, now he tells us.
Yeah, well, a little bit late. No, I think it's just another opportunity that we have to kind of take that next step. When Jon was talking about it, I think it was the other day with the volunteers. I think it's something we're going to look back at in 5 years and go, man, why didn't we do that sooner? Like that was a slam dunk thing. We should have been, not that we should have done it earlier, but why were we so concerned about it? Why were we thinking so hard about it? Which is what we're still going to do, but I think it's going to fall in place. And and just to be able to kind of see the ministry grow here, even just, I mean, I've been around coming to church for 19 years now. Wow. And so, just to see that kind of grow to more of a regional church than just one in Mount Vernon. It's been fun to see.
And it's like, go ahead, Linda.
Well, and I get to see on a weekly basis mail that comes in. I take care of that. So I get to see letters that come in from Southern Illinois, from Missouri, from Kentucky, from wherever. And sometimes there's a donation there. Sometimes it's a letter saying, thank you for the prayers. Thank you, Jennifer, for praying with me online. Thank you, Jon, for sending me that nice note. And so when we move this campus further south, then we are giving people that are a little bit farther away the opportunity to see us, to come and be with us and be there in person. And that's exciting.
Because Jon, like you said, I mean, it's easier to share a flame when your proximity matters. And I think we've been doing a great job. We've been calling ourselves a regional church, and we have been a regional church, and we've been putting seeds in the ground all over a 4-state region. But now is the time to harvest some of that and to be in, because a farmer can't harvest a field from an hour away. I mean, there's some drone stuff that maybe they could do now, but I don't know if it's possible. But you've got to be working those fields. And Carbondale, Illinois, is that next field for us. And that first field, we should say.
Right.
This is a multi-campus model that we're going to be adopting. It's not like one and done.
So we've gone away from the teeth now, and now we're doing seeds.
Yeah.
I'm just trying
now
to
we're
stick
doing
with
seeds.
it.
Yep.
Okay, seeds. Okay,
Stick
now
with
we're
the
seeds.
illustration.
Okay.
But let's talk a little bit of logistics before we get, how much. Okay,
I got 3 minutes.
Expand our facility. It's obvious when it comes to this, and what's really cool is I think a lot of people didn't know that back wall can go back.
That's what we're hoping. I mean, that's Bryan's been digging into some drawings and talking to builders and all kinds of stuff, and so that's what we're hoping is possible, and so that's what he's looking into right now.
And 200 more seats and physical seats. That's the cool thing. I'm thinking about Christmas too. When we say we have 2 seats left, we literally will know we have 2 seats left.
It will be it'll be better in almost every way come Christmas.
Yep. And it's funny because just our human nature, when you have a project or anything that people can get behind, there's that energy there, and it brings more people in. It's like a moth to a flame. Yeah. Flame reference.
Here we go.
We're changing references. But number 2, let's talk Carbondale, because I think, again, Carbondale is not the easy town to choose. It's not the, no offense, Bryan, it's not the, well, it's kind of a go thing. Yeah. It's not the Marion of Southern Illinois. Right. Marion would be more of a slam dunk. It's near the interstate. It's growing. It's more vibrant.
Well, and when we were in Carbondale talking to some people, they actually said to us, "Hey, have you thought about just a little bit east of town, Marion?" And so Yeah, I don't think it is. I'll let Jon speak to this. I kind of jumped in here.
No,
Sorry, my
please
man.
talk.
But yeah, I mean, I just got talking to somebody today from that area that's really excited about. Hey, I heard that you guys are gonna come to that area, and so I think there's a lot of people there. I think there's the challenges, but on the same token, I'm sure Jon will attest to this here in a second with some statistics. But I think it's an area that we go and we try our best, do what we can, and just leave it up to God.
Yeah, and I think it's more of a darker area in Southern Illinois than most. I mean, we could talk for hours about maybe the reasons why, but I mean, the statistic is 51% of people that were asked claim to be not an unchurched person. Right. And that's just crazy for around here.
That is nutso.
And so, I mean, that's the thing. God also will always give us an opportunity, but that opportunity may not always be the easiest. But for Carbondale, I think, and I loved your story about the torpedoes. It's like, you pray for 40 years for a connection night. No, pray for 40 years for more spiritual growth and enlightenment in an area that needs it. And like he said, the reason we're going to Carbondale is it's outside of that hour drive. You can get a lot of people to come to church within that, and even maybe a little bit outside of that for so long. But you can't invite those people can invite their friends, and those friends, you can't get a group of people for a long period of time.
The expectation of engagement is definitely different for somebody driving an hour to church one way. Yeah. And so it's great that they're here once a week, but to expect them to be here for groups or to come to special events, things like that. I mean, to really engage in this community, you have to kind of be in that community.
Yeah. And like you said, the sermon will be brought in. That'll be live from Mount Vernon, but everything else will be community. I think you said community is the center point and everything else. So groups, the worship, all of the guest services in Kadipo, all of that will be there in Carbondale or in that area.
Well, and something to add to that too, and Jon doesn't push this much, and I'll just say it, and you can cut this out later if you need to, but there are easier places to go to statistically, places that would make more sense. Whether it's Marion, whether it's even if you say, hey, O'Fallon, Shiloh,
that's where
we're gonna go a mile away from where the neighborhoods are building. Let them come to us, and we'll grow just by proximity. But at the whole start of this, and Jon said, I really feel like God's telling me Carbondale. At that point, it's not about what makes sense, what is right. If you're being led to Carbondale, then there's your answer. There's no sense in even talking about any place else. Let's figure out how to make Carbondale work.
You said that from the beginning. I mean, you said exactly that from the beginning.
Well, it's super cool. I mean, we could really sit here for another hour and talk about this. And here's the thing.
Unfortunately, you're going to have to do that on your own because I have to step out.
Jon, thanks for stopping in. Co-host out. So we'll do
Jon.
Bryan and Linda. Now let's talk about Jon.
Yes.
But here's the neat. I mean, there's still a lot of questions to be answered in this. There's a lot of details that need to be fleshed out before here and there. But that's the thing. If you go to our website, centralnow.com/build, on Sunday, we'll have that loaded, and we'll have all of the information that you received from Jon, but in where you could see it and share it. Because I think there's some excitement that's going to keep building with this. But with excitement, again, lots of questions like, oh, who's going to be on staff? Or where's your building going to be at? Or how are you going to do this? And what's this going to be like? We don't know yet. We're going to be completely honest about that. We don't know yet, but we know the only thing we do know is that we need to follow the direction of what God's leading us to.
Absolutely.
Yes. So.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing too. And which actually makes it easier because you already know the direction that you're going. And then you have the faith that God's going to open up those doors when they need to be opened and hopefully shut them that need to be shut. But I think that is, and that's something else I told Jon too, is, there's a level of comfort there. Like if we came up with Marion or O'Fallon or wherever it may be, then you're going, okay, why does this work? How does this work? What's the best idea? Where's the best? When it's in God's hands, it just makes it easier as far as just the feeling you have inside. Did we make the right decision? And I think the right decision is we follow God, and that's where we go. Yeah.
It's crazy because we're recording this before the congregation hears about it, and we've told some key volunteers and some other people just to kind of let the cat out of the bag slowly and really gain momentum for this. But I'm excited for everybody to know. Yeah. There are certain people that I know that are from around that area that I am just giddy to kind of see their face after they hear this. Yeah. I think those are people that'll be key players in that, and that's the thing. We're not calling it a church plant per se. right, Bryan?
Per se? Well, I thought that was the name of it. Central Christian per se.
Per se.
No, I don't think. I think it's just Central Christian Church at another location. And that's really, I don't know how you put that into
How do you label that correctly?
how you put that on a business card or wherever.
Central
but
Christian Church, AAL.
AAL?
At another location.
Oh, yeah. So perfect. See, that's why we got Linda. But yeah, no, it's not something that we feel like we can do better than anyone at, or it's just, this is where we're feeling called to.
Yeah.
And try to transfer what we're doing here, there. And really, with a plant like this, it's really about the people and it's about the relationships. And I don't think you can go in with a model and just expect it to work. I think more than anything, it's the relationships. And I was telling somebody the other day, out of all my years here, especially before I worked here, the only people I knew or really, knew well were people I was in a small group with, or people I did Central Serve Day with. There's one more too.
You had a third one. I remember you talking about that. I can't remember either.
It's not necessarily the people that you sit around during church, because you don't get a chance to talk to them. You know their face, but you don't get a chance to talk to them. You get a chance to build those relationships, in other ways, and those are the people that you gravitate towards when you see them. So I think the whole idea of having those relationships and then transferring that and doing that somewhere else. It's not about opening up a church in Carbondale and opening the doors. If the main goal for us each day is to open up the doors and just let the people come in, we're going to fail. But we want to get out there and really, have people know who we are. And we've already taken a big step with WSIL. They can watch it on TV and kind of get a feel for who we are and how we do things. And I think they'll make their comfort level coming in there the first time much, much higher.
Yeah, I think that needs to be said too. I hope I see this model being our effort to not be a surface level church. This is to our level to dig deep in these relationships with people, because you said it. When you do life with people, that's how you grow with people. And you can't grow with people if you're only sitting around and maybe not even talking to them for an hour a week. So this is our attempt to really, or God's attempt to really dig deep in a lot of people's lives. And I think that's another thing that you said. This is not us encroaching on other churches in those areas. We want that to be said, but we feel like we have seeds in the ground, and it is our obligation as a farmer is to develop those things. And it's not to cherry pick from other churches. It's just to say, hey, we have a relationship with these people. We need to continue to water this and see how this goes and bring fruit, because we're called to bring fruit in people's lives. And this is hopefully the best effort to do that. So it's good stuff. If you have questions, email. No, I'm just kidding. But seriously, thanks a lot for coming, because it was neat how we worked this out. Because actually, I don't know if you guys know this. This is now Build This House week 6. The church, right, is not the final week of Build This House. They've just decided that Generations, which is going to be next week with James McKenzie at the helm preaching, that's going to be the 7th week of Build This House.
We're still Build This House.
We're still building.
Oh, wow.
So
we
it's
just
funny
added on.
We're just adding an addition. So next week, we're going to have, again, week 7 of Build This House. We're continuing it one more week. James is going to look at generations. Another one word, and that really is, what's the future? What's next for Central? How do we develop these generations? And we're going to do that on Memorial Day. And it's kind of neat to look, again, like Jon looked back 107 years, we're going to continue to look forward to what God is doing. And it's just exciting. So it was really great to hear your stories and see how God's moving in your departments.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, you're welcome.
Appreciate
Jon,
it.
he's not here anymore. But yeah, we'll see you back here next week for episode 65. And again, we're going to continue Build This House. And we hope that you were encouraged and you can continue to build your areas where you're at. Thanks, everybody.